Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you all today. Today, we will be exploring a story titled The Last Leaf. This presentation will take you through the main themes, characters, and lessons of this beautiful piece. So let's dive in and discover what makes The Last Leaf a timeless story. Let's take a closer look at the contents of this slide. Here, we start with an introduction about the author of The Last Leaf. Understanding the author helps us appreciate the story's themes and messages. Next, we see the title The Last Leaf, which is central to the story's plot. We then encounter the question, "What is it, dear?" which reflects Sue's concern for Johnsy. This phrase hints at the emotional connection between the characters. Following that, Johnsy wakes up the next morning, which marks an important moment in the story. We also see the theme of the story, emphasizing the moral lessons, such as hope, sacrifice, and the power of kindness. The slide mentions a multiple-choice question, asking if anything was worrying Johnsy, which the doctor inquires about. Sue, in a caring gesture, sits beside Johnsy, kisses her, and offers comfort. There's a question about what the doctor said Johnsy had made up her mind about, which relates to her belief that she would die when the last leaf falls. We also note that in the evening, despite a storm, the leaf remains on the vine, symbolizing hope and resilience. The slide introduces Beaman, a character who is significant in the story, and asks about the author, linking back to the beginning. It also explores Beaman's dream, his masterpiece, and his sacrifice, which are key to understanding his character. We see questions about the characters, the significance of Beaman's actions, and the story's message. The story portrays Sue trying to uplift Johnsy, especially when she feels hopeless. There's a mention of who painted the leaf on the wall, which is a crucial plot point, symbolizing hope. The questions also delve into why teenagers might feel depressed, connecting the story's themes to real life. Finally, the slide references the story's ending, with Johnsy's recovery after seeing the painted leaf, and what happened to Beaman, who sacrificed himself. Overall, this slide provides a comprehensive overview of the story, its characters, themes, and moral lessons, helping us understand the deeper message of hope and selflessness. Let's take a moment to learn about the author behind these captivating stories, O. Henry. His full name was William Sidney Porter, a name that might not be as famous as his pen name, but his work certainly is. He was born on September 11th, 1862, and sadly, he passed away on June 5th, 1910. O. Henry was an American short story writer, and he's especially known for his clever use of surprise endings that leave readers thinking. Over his lifetime, he wrote more than 300 short stories, a remarkable achievement. What makes his stories particularly interesting is that they focus on the lives of ordinary people, capturing everyday moments with a unique narrative style that makes his work stand out. Most of his stories are set in New York City, a place he was deeply fascinated by, and you can see that love and fascination reflected throughout his writing. Connecting this to our overall theme, O. Henry's stories give us a window into the city's vibrant life and the human experiences within it, all told with his signature twist that keeps us hooked. The theme of the story, The Last Leaf, centers around selflessness and sacrifice. When Beaman learns that Johnsy believes she will die once the last ivy leaf falls, he chooses to act selflessly. Despite the cold and the rain, he ventures out in the middle of the night to paint an ivy leaf on the brick wall. This act highlights the importance of hope and the power of self-sacrifice. Now, what does the last leaf truly symbolize? Beaman climbs up on a ladder, risking his own health, and paints that leaf in harsh conditions. Sadly, he catches pneumonia and passes away. The leaf, in this context, transforms from a symbol of despair into one of hope. Johnsy initially sees the falling leaves as a sign that her life is slipping away. She believes that once the last leaf falls, she will die. But when that leaf remains, it becomes a powerful symbol of hope and resilience. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, hope can endure. So this story beautifully illustrates how acts of selflessness can inspire hope, and how symbols like the last leaf can represent more than their physical presence. They embody hope, sacrifice, and the human spirit's resilience. So, in this summary of the story, we see the close relationship between two friends, Sue and Johnsy, who share a rented apartment. When Johnsy falls seriously ill with pneumonia, her outlook on life takes a nosedive. She becomes convinced that she will die once the last leaf falls from the ivy vine outside their window. This belief becomes a symbol of her hope, or lack of it. What's really interesting here is how the falling leaves represent her mental state. If the last leaf falls, she feels her fate is sealed. But then, something unexpected happens. Their neighbor, Mr. Bayman, who's an artist, goes out into a storm to paint a leaf on the wall, making it look like the last leaf is still there. This act of self-sacrifice sparks a change in Johnsy's outlook, giving her renewed hope. However, there's a twist. Mr. Bayman, in his effort to help Johnsy, contracts pneumonia himself and sadly passes away. This highlights the theme of sacrifice and hope that runs through the story. It reminds us that sometimes hope and compassion come at a great personal cost, but they can also inspire and save others. Overall, this story is a powerful reminder about the strength of hope, the importance of caring for others, and how acts of kindness can make a profound difference. Let's take a closer look at The Last Leaf, a story by the renowned writer O. Henry. It's a powerful tale that highlights themes of hope, sacrifice, and resilience. The story revolves around an old artist and a young artist who is suffering from pneumonia. The young artist becomes very despondent, feeling that her illness means she will never recover. But what's truly remarkable is how the old artist, despite his own age and health, tries to inspire her to hang on and keep fighting. He gives her the strength to live through his act of kindness and hope. Tragically, in the process of trying to save her, the old artist himself falls ill and ultimately passes away. This story beautifully illustrates how selfless acts can have profound impacts, echoing the overall theme of perseverance and the power of hope in difficult times. Let's take a closer look at some key words and their meanings. First, we have seriously, which actually means badly in certain contexts. It's often used to emphasize how badly something is happening or being done. Moving on, pneumonia is a disease caused by an infection in the lungs. It can be quite serious, especially if not treated promptly. Next, whisper means to speak softly, almost in a hushed tone, often to keep something private or to be discreet. Then there's ivy, which is a type of climbing plant. You might see it covering walls or fences, adding a bit of greenery to urban spaces. Now let's look at begged. This means asking humbly or earnestly for something. It's often used when someone is pleading or making a heartfelt request. Gazing is simply looking steadily at something or someone, often with admiration, curiosity, or thoughtfulness. Feeble describes something weak or lacking strength, whether it's a person, a voice, or even an argument. Moving on, finality refers to the state of being final, something that cannot be changed or undone, like a conclusion or an ending. And finally, cooperate means to work together with others, to collaborate and achieve a common goal. Connecting these words to our overall theme, understanding these key terms helps us communicate more effectively, especially when describing situations that involve health, emotions, or teamwork. Recognizing their meanings allows us to express ourselves clearly and understand others better in various contexts. So on this slide, we see the title, The Last Leaf, which is actually the name of the story we're exploring. Now, let's talk about Sue and Johnsy. They are two young artists who shared a small flat together. Their home was on the third floor of an old house, which gives us a sense of their modest lifestyle. In November, a very serious situation arose. Johnsy fell ill with pneumonia, a dangerous illness especially back then. She became so weak that she would just lie in bed all day, unable to move, and she kept staring out of the window. Sue, her close friend, was understandably very worried about her. She took action by calling a doctor to help. Despite the doctor coming every day to check on Johnsy, her condition didn't improve. There was no noticeable change, which added to the seriousness of the situation. This slide sets the stage for understanding the gravity of Johnsy's illness, which will be important as we see how hope and determination come into play later in the story. One day, the doctor decided to take Sue aside for a moment and ask her a very important question. He wanted to know if there was anything bothering Johnsy, anything that might be affecting her. Sue responded honestly, saying no, there was nothing in particular. She was curious, though, about why the doctor was asking. The doctor then explained something quite crucial. Johnsy had made up her mind that she wasn't going to recover. This is a key point. Her attitude, her mindset, was influencing her health. The doctor pointed out that if someone truly doesn't want to live, no matter how much medicine is given, it might not be enough to help them recover. This highlights a powerful theme in the story, that hope and a positive outlook can be vital in overcoming difficult circumstances. It reminds us that the mind and attitude are deeply connected to our physical health and recovery. Sue did her very best to try and spark some interest in Johnsy. She talked about clothes and fashions, hoping to catch her attention, but unfortunately, Johnsy didn't respond at all. She just continued lying still on her bed, seemingly lost in her thoughts or her illness. To help her shift her focus, Sue brought her drawing board into the room and started painting. While she worked, she whistled softly, trying to take Johnsy's mind off her condition. This scene shows Sue's caring and determined attitude, highlighting how she's trying to bring some light and normalcy into Johnsy's life during a tough time. It's a good reminder of how small acts of kindness can make a big difference when someone is struggling. Suddenly, I heard Johnsy whisper something to herself. I quickly rushed over to her bed to see what was going on. As I got closer, I realized she was counting backwards. She was staring out of the window and quietly saying, 12. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then she whispered 11, then 10, and kept going, 9, 8, 7. I felt a surge of anxiety watching her. I looked out of the window and saw an old ivy creeper climbing up the brick wall opposite. In the strong wind outside, the leaves were shedding from the vine, almost like it was losing its last strength. This moment is so significant because it reflects her fragile state and the hope she's holding onto. Her countdown seems to symbolize her fight to cling to life. It's a poignant reminder of how her mind and body are intertwined with her surroundings and the overall theme of hope versus despair. What is it, dear? Sue asked gently, showing her concern. 6, whispered Johnsy softly, her voice filled with a quiet sadness. They are falling faster now, she continued. 3 days ago, there were almost 100 leaves. Now only 5 remain. Sue nodded understandingly and said, It is autumn and the leaves will fall. It's part of the season. But Johnsy's tone grew more serious. When the last leaf falls, I will die, she said with finality. I've known this for the last 3 days. Sue tried to reassure her. Oh, that's nonsense, she replied kindly. What do old ivy leaves have to do with your getting well? The doctor is confident you'll recover. Johnsy didn't respond, and Sue gently went to bring her a bowl of soup. But Johnsy refused it. I don't want any soup, she said. I am not hungry. And then she looked out the window again. Now there are only 4 leaves left. I want to see the last one fall before it gets dark. Then I will sleep forever. This moment highlights a deep connection between hope and despair, illustrating how a person's mindset can influence their recovery. It also reminds us that sometimes our beliefs and thoughts can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. In the broader theme of resilience and mental strength, Johnsy's fixation on the falling leaves symbolizes how our perceptions can impact our realities. Now in this scene, Sue is sitting on Johnsy's bed, showing her care and determination. She kisses her and tells her firmly, You are not going to die, emphasizing her hope and support. Sue explains that she can't draw the curtain because she needs the light to finish her painting, which is very important for their future. She asks Johnsy to promise not to look out the window while she works, highlighting her concern for Johnsy's fragile state and her desire to keep her hopeful. Johnsy responds with a mix of acceptance and a strange desire to see the last leaf fall. She's tired of waiting and feels she must die, wishing to leave peacefully like one of those tired, falling leaves. This reveals her deep sense of despair and her emotional connection to the leaves outside. Sue then encourages her to try to sleep and shares her plan to paint an old miner, saying she'll call Bayman to be her model. This shows Sue's resilience and her efforts to keep moving forward despite the difficult circumstances. Overall, this scene underscores themes of hope, sacrifice, and the importance of support during times of despair, which are central to the larger message of the story. Sue hurriedly rushed down the stairs, her urgency clear. Bayaman, who lived on the ground floor, was a 60-year-old painter. His lifelong dream was to create a masterpiece, but unfortunately, that dream had never come true. Today, Sue came to him with her worries about Johnsy. She explained how Johnsy was convinced that she would die once the last leaf fell from the vine outside her window. Bayaman, with a hint of frustration, asked her, "Is she stupid? How can she be so foolish?" Sue then expressed her concern about Johnsy's high temperature, mentioning that she refused to eat or drink, which was deeply worrying for her. This slide highlights the emotional tension and the importance of hope and despair in their situation, tying into the larger theme of perseverance and belief in the face of adversity. Now Bayaman says, "I will come with you and see Johnsy," showing his willingness to support and share the concern for her. Together, they tiptoe quietly into the room, careful not to wake her. Johnsy is peacefully sleeping, and Sue gently pulls the curtains closed to give her some privacy. Then, Sue and Bayaman move to the next room. Peeking out through the window, Sue notices something striking. There's only one leaf left on the creeper. It's raining heavily, and a cold wind is blowing fiercely. It almost seems as if that last leaf might fall at any moment. Bayaman doesn't say anything. He silently returns to his room. This scene highlights the tense atmosphere and the symbolism of that last leaf, which is so important to Johnsy's hope and will to live. It reminds us how fragile life can be and how crucial hope is in the face of adversity. Today, I want to talk about a pivotal moment when Johnsy wakes up the next morning. Her voice is weak as she asks Sue to draw the curtains, showing her fragile state. Sue, feeling nervous, hesitates but finally pulls back the curtains reluctantly. When Sue notices the vine creeper, she exclaims in surprise, "There's still one leaf left. It looks quite green and healthy despite the storm and fierce winds, which is remarkable." This leaf's persistence symbolizes hope and resilience amid adversity. Johnsy mentions hearing the wind last night and says she thought the leaf would fall, and that once it does, she'll die. Her words reveal her deep despair and connection between her hope and the leaf's survival. Sue, trying to comfort her, assures her she won't die and emphasizes the importance of living for friends, highlighting the theme of hope and the will to survive. Johnsy, weak but comforted, smiles and closes her eyes. Every hour she looks out and sees that the leaf is still there, clinging to the vine. This leaf becomes a powerful symbol, representing hope, perseverance, and the fighting spirit that can sustain us even in our darkest moments. Now, in the evening, there was another storm, but interestingly, the leaf did not fall. This was a crucial moment because it symbolized hope and resilience. Johnsy had been staring at that leaf for a long time, almost as if she was waiting for it to fall and confirm her fears. Then, she called out to Sue, recognizing something important. She admitted, "I have been a bad girl. You have looked after me so lovingly and I have not cooperated with you." This shows her realization of her own neglect of gratitude and her own emotional struggles. She went on to say she had been depressed and gloomy, and that the last leaf had shown her how wicked she had been, meaning her negative thoughts and despair. She finally understood that it is a sin to want to die, that giving up is not the answer. Sue responded with warmth, hugging Johnsy tightly. Then she took practical steps to help her, giving her hot soup to nourish her body and a mirror to help her see herself clearly again. After some time, Johnsy combed her hair and managed to smile brightly. This moment marks a turning point, highlighting themes of hope, gratitude, and the power of caring relationships. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, resilience and support can lead us back to life and light. Now, in the afternoon, the doctor arrived to check on Johnsy. After examining her, he shared some encouraging news with Sue. He said that Johnsy now has the will to live, and he's confident she'll recover soon. That was a big moment of hope for both of them. The doctor then mentioned he needed to go downstairs to see Bayaman. Unfortunately, Bayaman was also suffering from pneumonia, and the doctor expressed his concern by saying there's no hope for him. This highlights the harsh reality of illness, especially during that time. The very next morning, Sue came back and sat on Johnsy's bed. She took Johnsey's hand gently and delivered some sad news. Bayaman had died of pneumonia that morning. She explained that Bayaman had only been ill for 2 days. The first day, the janitor found him in his bed, wet clothes and shoes, shivering, clearly caused by the cold and the stormy night he had spent outside. This moment is quite poignant because it connects to the overall theme of sacrifice and hope in the story. Bayaman's quick deterioration and his brave act underline how much he cared, even at the risk of his own life. It's a reminder of the profound impact one person's courage and love can have, especially in difficult times. Now, in this scene, they discover a ladder and a lantern that's still lit, lying near Johnsey's bed. This suggests that someone was up there recently, possibly working on something important. On the floor near the ladder, there are some brushes and green and yellow paints, which indicates that painting was involved. Sue then softly calls out to Johnsey, asking her to look out of the window and observe the ivy leaf. She points out that the leaf doesn't flutter when the wind blows, which might seem odd at first. But then Sue reveals that this leaf is actually Bayaman's masterpiece. She explains that Bayaman painted that leaf the night the last real leaf fell from the vine. This detail is crucial because it highlights Bayaman's quiet act of hope and sacrifice. It shows how he, in his own way, tried to give Johnsey a reason to hold on and believe in life. This moment ties into our overall theme, how hope and selfless acts can influence the course of our lives, especially in the face of despair. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes, even small acts of kindness can be the difference between giving up and holding on. Let's take a look at this question. Who was the author of The Last Leaf? This is a great opportunity to recall some renowned writers. The options listed are O. Henry, Ruskin Bond, Harshmander, and Oscar Wilde. The correct answer here is O. Henry. He's famous for his short stories that often have a twist ending, and The Last Leaf is one of his most celebrated works. Remember, recognizing the author helps us better appreciate the story's themes and style. So, when you see questions like this, keep in mind the distinctive voices of these authors. This connects to the overall theme of understanding literary contributions and their impact. Now, let's move on to question 2, which asks us to identify the characters of the story, The Last Leaf. The options include Bayaman, Johnsey, Sue, or all of the above. The correct answer is indeed all of the above. Bayaman is the elderly artist who plays a crucial role in the story. Johnsey is the young woman who is suffering from a serious illness, and Sue is her caring and supportive friend. The story highlights the importance of these characters and their relationships, showing how they contribute to the overall theme of hope and self-sacrifice. Recognizing all these characters helps us understand the depth of the story's message about compassion and resilience. So let's talk about Johnsey. Who was she? Well, she was a sick girl, but more specifically, she was a young artist. That's an important detail because it helps us understand her character and her motivations in the story. She wasn't just any girl. Her passion for art is a key part of her identity. The options might seem simple. She was a girl, or she was sick. But knowing she was a young artist adds depth to her character and connects to the overall theme of hope and resilience in the story. Remember, in literature, small details like this can tell us a lot about a character's personality and their journey. Now, let's look at what the doctor thought about Johnsey's mindset. The question here is, according to the doctor, about what had Johnsey made up her mind. The options suggest different possibilities. She might believe she will recover soon, or perhaps she thinks she'll recover late. But the actual answer, as the doctor observed, was that she was not going to get well at all. This is a crucial point, because it highlights her mental state and how her thoughts were influencing her physical condition. Remember, the overall theme of this story touches on hope, despair, and the power of the mind. So, understanding what Johnsey believed about her recovery gives us insight into her mental and emotional state during that time. So let's look at question 5. What was Bayaman's dream? Well, the options are to paint a masterpiece, to travel the world, or to make a colorful painting or a poster. The correct answer is actually to paint a masterpiece. This tells us a lot about Bayaman's character. He dreams big and has a clear vision of creating something extraordinary. It's not just about simple art or traveling. His goal is to produce something truly special that will stand the test of time. This aspiration ties into the overall theme of the presentation, which emphasizes the importance of having a dream and working towards it with passion and dedication. So, Beyeman's dream was to create a masterpiece, something that would showcase his talent and leave a lasting legacy. So let's talk about Beyeman's masterpiece. The question here is, what was Beyeman's masterpiece? Now, we have a few options. Was it a painting of Sue, or perhaps a picture of a leaf, maybe a painting of Johnsy, or could it be all of the above? The correct answer is actually painting a picture of a leaf. This is a really important point because it highlights Beyeman's true artistic achievement. Despite his humble circumstances and the fact that he wasn't widely recognized as a great artist, his masterpiece was this simple yet powerful painting of a leaf. It connects to the overall theme of the story, about sacrifice, hope, and the idea that true greatness often comes from acts of kindness and selflessness, not just fame or recognition. Beyeman's leaf isn't just a painting. It symbolizes hope and perseverance in the face of adversity. So let's move on to question 7. It asks, what did Beyeman die of? Now, this is an important detail because it highlights a significant moment in the story. The options are fever, heart attack, cholera, or pneumonia. The correct answer is pneumonia. This is a key point because Beyeman's death from pneumonia underscores the themes of sacrifice and the harsh realities faced by the characters. It also connects to the overall message about resilience and the importance of hope in difficult circumstances. Remember, his death wasn't just a tragic end, but a reflection of the struggles they all endured and the sacrifices made for others. So let's take a closer look at question 8. Who is Beyeman? Now, based on the options, we see a few possibilities. One is that he was a young boy, but that's not correct. The correct answer is that he was a 60-year-old painter. This detail is quite significant because it gives us insight into his life experience and perspective. The other options, being a 40-year-old man or a 50-year-old man, are not accurate in this context. Remember, Beyeman's age and profession are key to understanding his role in the story and how he symbolizes certain themes like sacrifice and artistic passion. So, when we think about Beyeman, picture a seasoned, older artist, not a young boy or middle-aged man. So let's consider what happens when the last leaf falls. The question posed here is, what will happen to Johnsy? The options include that she might recover, that nothing extraordinary will happen, that she will die, or that it's not clear in the topic. The correct answer, as we see, is that Johnsy will die. This moment is quite significant because it ties into the story's larger themes of hope, perception, and the power of belief. It shows how her mental state and her beliefs about the last leaf influence her fate. When the last leaf falls, it symbolizes the loss of hope for her, and ultimately, her acceptance of her own mortality. This underscores the idea that our mindset can greatly affect our outcomes, which is a central theme of the story. So, in essence, this slide reminds us that sometimes our perceptions can shape our realities, and in Johnsy's case, her belief about the last leaf directly impacts her life. So, for question 10, we're asked where Beyeman spent his night to create his masterpiece. The options are a hotel, a heavy storm, on a mountain, or none. The correct answer is in a heavy storm. This detail is quite significant because it highlights Beyeman's dedication and the extreme conditions he endured. It also connects to the overall theme of sacrifice and perseverance that runs throughout the story. Often, great art and meaningful acts come from moments of challenge, and Beyeman's night in the storm exemplifies that. It reminds us that sometimes the most inspiring creations are born out of hardship. So in this slide, we're looking at what the doctors believed was the key to her recovery. The question asks, according to the doctors, what was the cure to her illness? The options include medicines, love and care, strong medicines, and her own willingness to live. The correct answer is her own willingness to live. This highlights a really important point. Sometimes, the most powerful cure isn't just medication or external help, but the patient's own mindset and determination. It connects to the overall theme that mental strength and a positive attitude can play a crucial role in overcoming challenges. It's a reminder that belief in oneself can be just as vital as any treatment. Let's talk about the characters of the story. The question here is, who are the characters? The options include Bayaman, Johnsy, Sue, or all of them. The correct answer is all of the above, which means each of these characters plays an important role. Bayaman is an artist, Johnsy is a young girl battling illness, and Sue is her close friend. Together, they form a core part of the story's emotional fabric. Recognizing all these characters helps us understand the different perspectives and relationships that drive the narrative forward. This ties into the overall theme of hope, sacrifice, and human connection, which runs throughout the story. So, when we think about the characters, we see how each one contributes uniquely to the story's message. So let's talk about why many teenagers feel depressed. The options we have here include having too many desires, higher aspirations, or an inability to cope with expectations. The correct answer, and what many studies suggest, is that it's often because of an inability to cope with the expectations placed on them. Teenagers today face a lot of pressure, whether from family, school, or society, to meet certain standards. When they feel overwhelmed and unable to handle these demands, it can lead to feelings of depression. This highlights a crucial point in our overall discussion about mental health, how external pressures and internal struggles can significantly impact young people's well-being. Remember, understanding these causes helps us better support and guide them through these challenges. When Johnsy saw Bayaman's masterpiece painting, something changed in her. She became confident that she could be cured. It's a powerful moment because it shows how art and hope can deeply influence a person's mindset. Instead of feeling defeated or hopeless, she felt a new sense of strength and optimism. This shift in her attitude is crucial because it highlights the theme of hope and resilience. It reminds us that sometimes, a single inspiring act or piece of art can make all the difference in our outlook and recovery. So let's take a look at question 15. It asks, what can make a man recover soon? Now, this is an interesting question because it touches on the power of the mind and overall well-being. The options include the will to die, eating healthy food, the will to live, or all of the above. The correct answer is the will to live. This highlights a very important point, that having a positive mindset and a strong desire to live can significantly influence recovery. It's not just about physical health, but also the mental attitude that plays a crucial role. While healthy eating is certainly beneficial for recovery, the most vital factor here is the will to live. It shows us that mental resilience and determination often have a direct impact on physical health. So, in the context of overall health and recovery, fostering a positive will to live can be a powerful tool. Remember, our mindset can sometimes be the most important medicine we have. So in this question, we're asked who painted the leaf on the wall. The options are Johnsy, Sue, Bayaman, or all of the above. The correct answer is Bayaman. This detail is quite significant because it highlights Bayaman's role in the story. He's the one who creates the painting of the leaf. It also ties into the larger theme of hope and sacrifice, since Bayaman's act of painting the leaf gives Johnsy the hope she needs to keep fighting. Remember, it's not just about who painted the leaf, but what it symbolizes in the context of the story's message about perseverance and selflessness. So, where did Sue and Johnsy stay? They lived in a small flat on the fourth story of an old house. It was a cozy, modest place that suited their simple lifestyle. Now, both of them were artists, which is a very important detail because it tells us about their passion and dedication to their craft. Their profession as artists also ties into the overall theme of creativity, hope, and perseverance that runs throughout the story. Living in that small flat, surrounded by their art supplies and creative energy, really sets the scene for their struggles and hopes. So, in this part of the story, we learn that Johnsy was suffering from pneumonia, which was a serious illness at that time. It's important to understand how dangerous pneumonia can be, especially back then when medical treatments weren't as advanced as they are today. Her condition was quite critical, and she needed care and attention. Luckily, her close friend Sue was there to look after her, providing support and companionship during her recovery. This highlights the theme of friendship and care, showing how important it is to have someone by your side during difficult times. It also sets the stage for understanding Johnsie's emotional state and the importance of the support she received from Sue throughout her illness. When Sue saw the last leaf on the creeper, she felt a deep sense of worry. She was concerned that the leaf might fall off by the next morning. Why is that so important? Well, Sue believed that if Johnsie, her friend, saw that the leaf had fallen, she might lose hope and not want to fight her illness anymore. This moment really highlights how much hope and perception can influence someone's will to live. Now, standing with Sue at the window was Bayaman, an old painter and her neighbor. His presence is significant because it shows he's not just observing, but also deeply involved in their emotional struggles. This scene underscores a powerful theme in the story, that hope, belief, and the support of others can make a real difference in our lives. Now, let's talk about the fear that Johnsie had in her mind. She was deeply worried that her life might end on the very day the last leaf on the creeper fell. This fear was not just about losing the leaf, but it symbolized her hope and will to live. She believed that as long as that final leaf remained, she would fight her illness. This fear highlights how powerful our beliefs and hopes can be, especially during difficult times. It also ties into the overall theme of hope and resilience, showing how even small symbols like a leaf can hold great emotional significance. So let's talk about what was happening to the leaves on the creeper outside Johnsie's window. As the story describes, the leaves were falling steadily. The main reason for this was the extreme cold and the strong wind. These harsh weather conditions caused the leaves to drop one by one. It's quite symbolic because the falling leaves also reflect Johnsie's declining health and her fragile state of mind. The environment outside mirrors her internal struggle, emphasizing how external forces can influence our feelings and situations. This detail about the leaves is important because it ties into the larger theme of hope and despair in the story. The falling leaves serve as a reminder of nature's power and how it can mirror human emotions. So, who was Bayaman? Well, Bayaman was an old painter. He's a character who plays an important role in the story because he symbolizes creativity and sacrifice. Despite being a bit of a curmudgeon and not very successful as an artist, he has a big heart. His age and experience give him a certain wisdom, and his role in the narrative really highlights themes of hope, perseverance, and selflessness. Throughout the story, Bayaman's actions show us that true artistry isn't just about painting. It's about the compassion and sacrifices we make for others. So, understanding who Bayaman is helps us see how even those who seem ordinary can have extraordinary qualities. So, let's look at what Bayaman actually did. The key point here is that he painted a picture of the creeper with a leaf on the wall. This act is quite significant because it shows his dedication and perhaps his hope for the future. Despite his own struggles and limitations, Bayaman created something beautiful and meaningful. This connects to the overall theme of the story, which is about sacrifice, hope, and the power of art to inspire. His painting symbolizes more than just a picture. It represents his inner strength and belief in a better tomorrow. So, what happened to Bayaman? Well, tragically, Bayaman died of pneumonia. This moment is quite significant because it highlights the ultimate sacrifice he made. Despite his own hardships, Bayaman's death underscores the theme of selflessness and sacrifice that runs throughout the story. It reminds us that sometimes our actions have profound consequences, and that true heroism often involves giving everything for others. His death also serves as a poignant reminder of the risks and sacrifices involved in caring deeply for someone else, tying back to the overall message of hope and courage in the face of adversity. So let's talk about Bayaman's dream. What was it that truly motivated him? Well, his dream was to paint a masterpiece. This wasn't just about creating a beautiful picture. It represented his deep desire for artistic greatness. Bayaman yearned to leave a lasting legacy through his art. This dream ties into the larger theme of the story: aspiration, sacrifice, and the pursuit of something greater than oneself. Despite his old age and the many hardships he faced, his hope to achieve something extraordinary kept him going. And it's interesting to see how this dream reflects his character, someone who might have been overlooked or underestimated, but who still held onto a powerful vision. It reminds us that dreams can be a driving force, pushing us beyond our limits. So, to answer the question, was Johnsie's life saved? Yes, indeed, Johnsie's life was saved. This point is crucial because it highlights the importance of hope, perseverance, and perhaps the power of human resilience. Throughout the story, we see how her outlook on life was a significant factor in her recovery. It reminds us that sometimes mental strength and a positive attitude can play a vital role in overcoming physical challenges. This ties back to the overall theme that hope and determination are essential elements in facing life's difficulties. So, where did Sue and Johnsie stay? They lived in a small flat on the fourth story of an old house. It's interesting to imagine their cozy little home, isn't it? And what about their profession? Both of them were artists. This detail really highlights their creative spirits and the kind of lives they led. It's also a reminder of how artists often seek inspiration from their surroundings, which is a theme that runs through this story. Their shared passion for art connects to the overall idea of hope and perseverance, even in difficult circumstances. So let's talk about the significance of the paints and brushes near Bayaman's bed. These items tell us quite a bit about him. They indicate that he had been out painting, even in the middle of that harsh, snowy, and windy night. It shows his dedication to his art, his passion, and perhaps his sense of urgency or purpose. This detail helps us understand his character a little better, his resilience and commitment. In the context of the overall story, it emphasizes the theme of perseverance and the importance of following one's passion, even under difficult circumstances. It's a small detail, but it reveals so much about his personality and the sacrifices he's willing to make. So let's talk about how Bayaman met his end. He died of pneumonia, which was a tragic consequence of his dedication. You see, that stormy night, he was outside painting a leaf on the creeper outside Johnsie's window. He wanted to give her hope, to inspire her to fight. After finishing his work, he came back home soaked in the rain, and unfortunately, that exposure led to him falling ill. The next morning, it was the janitor who found him there, weakened by the cold and rain. This moment really underscores the theme of sacrifice and hope that runs through the story. Bayaman's act of painting that leaf was his way of showing that even in the darkest times, a little hope can make a difference, something that ultimately cost him his life, but also inspired others. So, in this part of the story, the doctor's reaction to Johnsie's recovery is quite encouraging. He essentially declares that because Johnsie's will to live has been rekindled, she is likely to recover soon. This highlights the importance of hope and mental strength in healing. He also shares some concerning news about their neighbor, Bayaman. Unfortunately, Bayaman has fallen ill with pneumonia, and the doctor doesn't expect him to survive. This adds a layer of tragedy and underscores the sacrifices made by those around Johnsie and Sue. Overall, this moment ties back to the theme of hope and the power of the human spirit, which are central to the story's message. It reminds us that recovery isn't just about medicine. It's also about hope, resilience, and the support of others. So, why was Sue nervous about drawing back the window curtains? Well, it's because she was worried about the last leaf on the creeper. You see, the night before, there had been wind and snow, and she feared that this might have caused the final leaf to fall. And this isn't just about a plant. It's deeply connected to her friend Johnsie's feelings. She was afraid that seeing the last leaf gone might make Johnsie think that her own life was coming to an end. Basically, Sue was concerned that the falling of that last leaf would serve as a warning, a symbol that death was near for Johnsie. This moment highlights how deeply emotional and symbolic the creeper and its leaves are in the story, reflecting the themes of hope, fear, and the power of perception. I believe Bayaman was truly a great human being. While he was undeniably a talented artist, as shown by his realistic painting of the leaf on the wall, it's his character that truly stands out. That painting was so lifelike that everyone thought it was a real leaf, and it ended up saving Johnsie's life. You see, Johnsie had convinced herself that she would die once the last leaf fell from the creeper. But Bayaman's decision to support Sue, Johnsie's worried friend, reveals his caring and selfless nature. He went out into a stormy, cold night to paint that leaf, risking his own health. When he returned, he was soaked to the skin, in no condition to even remove his wet clothes. This act of sacrifice, doing something so risky just to give hope to someone else, really highlights his concern for others. It's a perfect example of how selflessness and kindness can make a profound difference. So overall, I see Bayman not just as an artist, but as a truly great human being because of his compassion and willingness to sacrifice for others. So why is the story called The Last Leaf? Well, as the title suggests, it centers around the significance of a single leaf on a tree. That one leaf plays a crucial role because it symbolically saves a girl's life. She had convinced herself that she would die as soon as the last leaf fell, so that leaf becomes a symbol of hope for her. Interestingly, that leaf stays on the tree against all odds, almost miraculously. It's as if that last leaf is giving her the strength to keep going. But the title also has another layer. It refers to the fact that this last leaf is actually the final artwork created by an out-of-work painter. That leaf, in a way, becomes his masterpiece, his final contribution, his ultimate creation. Overall, I think calling it The Last Leaf is very appropriate because it captures both the symbolic hope that the leaf provides and the painter's last, meaningful work. It ties together themes of hope, perseverance, and the importance of even the smallest things in life. When we look at this story, the first thing it explores is what truly defines art and what makes a painting a masterpiece. It's not just about technique or beauty, but about the depth of meaning and the emotions it evokes. The story also emphasizes the power of selflessness, showing how a supreme sacrifice can be made to save another person's life. That act of putting someone else's needs above our own is a profound theme here. Additionally, it highlights the loyalty that comes with true friendship and how far we're willing to go to support and protect those we care about. All these ideas come together to convey a powerful message about love and friendship, how they can inspire acts of incredible courage and virtue. Ultimately, the story reminds us that selflessness is one of the highest virtues we can aspire to. It's about recognizing the power of love and friendship in transforming us and guiding our actions, especially in moments of great need. This ties back to our overall theme, showing that the highest form of human virtue is often found in how we serve others. Now, let's discuss what Johnsy believed about the falling leaves and whether Sue shared the same belief. Johnsy and Sue were two young artist girls who shared a studio and a close bond, like sisters. One day, Johnsy caught pneumonia, which was quite serious. Outside her window, she could see an ivy creeper growing on the wall of the next house. The leaves on this creeper were falling rapidly because of the cold wind. Johnsy developed a strange belief that she would also die when the last leaf of the creeper fell. She started to lose hope and the will to live, thinking that her fate was tied to the leaves. As for Sue, she cared deeply for Johnsy and tried to cheer her up. She told her that there was no real connection between the falling leaves and her life or death. Sue's love and encouragement played a crucial role. She reassured Johnsy that her life was not dependent on the leaves falling. She even explained to Bayman, a painter, about Johnsy's strange belief. Inspired by Sue's compassion, Bayman painted a leaf on the wall, making it appear as if the last leaf still clung to the vine, even after the real leaves had fallen. This act of kindness and hope ultimately saved Johnsy's life. So the key takeaway here is that Johnsy believed her life was linked to the falling leaves, but Sue helped her realize that such superstitions were false. And through her love and the small act of painting that leaf, Sue showed how hope and support can make a life-changing difference. So, how did Bayman save Johnsy's life? Well, he made a profound sacrifice at the very core of his passion for art. The Last Leaf is a story about this incredible act of selflessness that breathes life into a young woman who was on the verge of giving up. You see, Johnsy was seriously ill, but her recovery depended largely on her will to live. Her poor health was not just physical, it was also rooted in her deep depression. Bayman, a 60-year-old painter, took it upon himself to help her, despite the risks involved. He ventured out into harsh, icy winds and rain, climbing a ladder to reach her window. His goal was to paint a leaf so realistic that Johnsy would believe it was real. And he succeeded. He painted a fresh, green leaf, full of life and hope. The passion and effort he poured into that single leaf were so intense that it seemed to revive her sinking spirit and breathing. In essence, Bayamon's act of sacrificing his own comfort and safety to give Johnsy hope and the will to fight her illness is the key to understanding his heroism. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes true sacrifice comes from the heart's desire to save someone else, and in this case, that act of art and love saved a life.